Hello everyone, welcome to the fourth episode of CSEC Biology with Mr. Charles. Today we're going to be looking at the biology of cells, specifically cell structure, function, and the specialization. Our learning objectives are to compare the structures of the generalized plant and animal cells and the selected microbes, distinguish between cell wall and cell membrane, mitochondria and chloroplasts, relate the structure of organelles to their functions, differentiate between plant and animal cells, and explain the importance of cell specialization in multicellular organisms. So, the structure of cells. All plant and animal tissues consist of cells. These cells are microscopic in size and they are the basic units of life. In general, each cell performs all the characteristics of life, and though in reality there is no such thing as a typical cell, most cells have many structures in common. So some organisms also, such as bacteria and protozoa, consist of one cell, and we call these unicellular organisms. Other organisms like plants and animals and so forth, and some fungi, they are multicellular, and this means that they have many cells that work together to keep them alive. So that's on the structure of cells. The structure of a generalized plant cell. Plant and animal cells are different, but all cells have the following properties. One, the cells are covered by a cell membrane. The cytoplasm is a living part of the cell. The organelles are small structures found in the cytoplasm, and these organelles are mostly small or too small to be seen with the naked eye, but they can be seen with an electron microscope. The nucleus controls the working and functioning of the cell, and this nucleus also contains chromosomes, and later on you'll realize that it is these chromosomes that allow the cells to function effectively. Because of these chromosomes and what they contain, the nucleus can control the working and the functioning of the cells. We also have the vacuole, which is an organelle with a membrane that holds liquid. And then finally we have the mitochondria, which are organelles which are responsible for cellular energy metabolism or respiration, in other words. The generalized animal cell. The animal cells do not have cell walls at all. And because of that, they may not have a fixed shape. If you notice, look at the plant cell. The plant cell has a rigid cell wall, and that gives it a fixed shape. The animal cell only has a cell membrane as its outer boundary. Also, if vacuoles are present, they are usually smaller than those in plant cells. So look, we have one vacuole here. This is another one here. You have many small vacuoles in animal cells. However, in a plant cell, you have one central large prominent vacuole. These vacuoles here in the animal cell are temporary. Animal cells are also usually smaller than plant cells, and they have no chloroplasts. Generally speaking, they are smaller than plant cells and they have no chloroplasts. Chloroplasts are only found in plant cells. These are these green organelles right here. These are the organelles that produce the green pigment. The pigment that causes leaves to appear green, called chlorophyll. Good. Now, let us look at the main structural differences between plant and animal cells. Now, all plant and animal cells have three components in common, and these three components are the cell membrane, the cytoplasm, and the nucleus. Now, in addition to these three components, the cytoplasm in both plant and animal cells contain organelles, such as mitochondria. However, there are some differences between the two types of cells, and these differences are summarized in the table to the right here. So you would notice that plant cells have a cell wall that is made up of cellulose, and animal cells have no cell wall at all. Plant cells usually have chloroplast with chlorophyll. The chloroplast makes the chlorophyll. Animal cells has no chloroplast or chlorophyll. Okay, plant cells, they usually have one large central vacuole which contains cell sap. However, animal cells, when present, the vacuoles are small, they are scattered, okay, throughout the cell or throughout the cytoplasm, and the contents vary, okay. So different vacuole may have different contents within them. Then plant cells may have starch grains as a food store. Okay, animal cells on the other hand may have glycogen granules as a food store. Okay, now both starch and glycogen are polymers or chains of glucose. Okay, they're just structurally different. In plants, starch is the form in which food is stored. In animals, glycogen is the form in which food is stored. Plant cells have a rigid shape due to the cell wall, and because of that, they tend to have a regular shape, usually round or square or rectangular, okay, no in between. Animal cells, on the other hand, their shape is not rigid. As a result, they can assume a variety of shapes, okay, a wide variety of shapes, okay. Generally, plant cells are larger than animal cells, and animal cells are smaller than plant cells. Okay, so these are the main structural differences between plant and animal cells. Okay, then we have the famous cell wall. Okay, let's look at the structure and function of the cell wall. As opposed to the cell membrane, which is differentially permeable, the cell wall is freely permeable. Okay, it also supports and protects the cell and gives it its shape. That's why the plant cell has a definite shape. It's because of the rigid cell wall. Okay, now the plant cell is made up of cellulose, and cellulose, just as starch, okay, just as starch and glycogen, okay, cellulose is a polymer of glucose. However, starch and glycogen are functional polymers, okay, so they serve a functional role as opposed to a structural role. Cellulose serves more a structural role, so cellulose is more for structure, okay. That is what the cell wall of plants are largely made up of. So if you look on the left here, you would see a diagram of a plant cell wall. This green rectangular, okay, structure you're seeing here, that's cellulose. Okay, look, we have cellulose here again, okay, and then we have hemicellulose. So the cell wall of plants is made largely of cellulose, and this cell wall covers the cell membrane. Okay, so the cell wall found in plants, it gives the plant its shape, okay, and to a certain extent it gives strength and protection to the cell. Its structure is fully permeable, or freely permeable, as you may say, which means that it allows everything to pass through. Okay, because it's fully permeable, it cannot control to a significant extent what enters or leaves the cell. Hence, most materials in solution can pass freely in and out of the cell because of the cell wall. Well, I shouldn't say in and out of the cell, but it can pass in and out of the cell wall. Okay, because you have the cell membrane underneath the cell wall, which would prevent certain things from entering, as you would see later. Okay, now plant cells, because of the presence of a rigid cell wall, they can become turgid when the vacuole is full and when the cytoplasm is full. Now this is an important means of support for some tissues. Now cells that are turgid also keep taking in water, so the cells that are turgid also stop taking in water, so the wall helps control the movement of water from cell to cell. Okay, as a matter of fact, in animal cells, as water continues to enter the cell, eventually the cell would burst. But in plant cells, because you have the cell wall, it will not burst because of that rigidity there. Okay, Then we have the cell membrane, the structure and function of the cell membrane. Typically, all cells have an outer living structure called the cell membrane, and this membrane is also called the plasma membrane. Okay, it consists of a double layer or two layers of fat and protein molecules. Okay, most times it's called a phospholipid bilayer or a phospholipid double layer. And it, okay, being differentially permeable, as I stated before, okay, the cell membrane is differentially permeable. Being differentially permeable, it has a level of control over what enters and leaves the cell, so it acts as a barrier. And speaking of it being a barrier, it does not stop everything from passing through. However, it controls things from entering. It controls certain things from entering and leaving the cell. Okay, so only certain things, only molecules of a certain size and charge can pass through. Okay, inside the cell membrane is the cell's protoplasm. Okay, and what is the protoplasm? The protoplasm is the nucleus together with the cytoplasm. Okay, so the nucleus and the cytoplasm together makes up the protoplasm. So it's important that you note that the cell membrane has a definite role in maintaining the constant composition and overall functioning of the cell. Okay, and these roles are important to the proper functioning of tissues, of which they form a part, and the organism as a whole. Okay, let's go in depth to the cytoplasm. What really is the cytoplasm? Well, the cytoplasm is a clear jelly-like substance consisting mainly of water, and as a matter of fact, it has 80% water and about 20% dissolved substances. Yes, there are substances that are dissolved in it, and these substances are mainly protein. Okay, it is also the cytoplasm is also the site or the location where many of the chemical reactions inside the cell occur. Okay, it contains several small structures referred to as organelles, and these organelles include mitochondria, vacuoles, and in some plants, chloroplasts. Okay, in some plant cells, chloroplasts, because not all plant cells have chloroplasts. It's only the green part of the plant that has chloroplasts. Okay, good. Now, the nucleus of the cell is actually a spherical or an ovoid structure located in the cytoplasm. It is surrounded by a nuclear membrane, which is similar to the cell membrane. Okay, however, there are pores in the nuclear membrane, and these pores are called nuclear pores. They allow materials to be exchanged between the cytoplasm and the nucleus. Okay, so things can pass through these nuclear pores. Now, within the nucleus are chromosomes, and these chromosomes are elongated structures containing DNA. Okay, DNA is the genetic material. It's what makes us who we are. Okay, and DNA, the abbreviation DNA stands for deoxyribonucleic acid. Okay, chromosomes may not be able to be seen if the cell is not dividing. Okay, so it's only when the cell is dividing you can see the chromosomes under a microscope. Other than that, when the cell is not dividing, they become longer, thinner, and very hard to see with a microscope. Okay, much less with the naked eye. Now, the DNA in the nucleus controls the characteristics and functioning of the cell. Okay, and when these DNAs fold together, then you get the chromosomes. Now, that is why the nucleus is known as a control center of the cell. It is because it contains the DNA which controls the characteristics and functioning of the cell. Okay, so the chromosomes in the nucleus control the activities and characteristics of the cells. So, for example, the size of the cell, the shape of the cell, the growth and division of the cell, or the reproduction of the cell. Okay, so without the nucleus, the activities of the cell become irregular, okay, or haphazard, and the cell would soon die. Now, the chromosomes, which are only visible during cell division, as I said earlier, they carry the hereditary information, okay, that is passed on from generation to generation, and that determines who we are. Okay, that's why some of us have appearances like our foreparents, because of our DNA that is passed on from generation to generation. Okay, the chromosome are also referred to as the genetic material of the cell, okay, or the blueprint of the cell. Now, the vacuoles are fluid-filled spaces surrounded by a membrane. Okay, so, and if you notice, most of the organelles have a membrane around them, so we call them membrane-bound organelles. In plant cells, vacuoles are large and they are prominent. They're central most of the times, and they often occupy most of the cell. Okay, most of the time is the vacuole. Okay, in animal cells, however, they are usually small or absent and only temporary. Okay, so whereas the vacuole in plant cells are prominent, the vacuoles in animal cells are temporary. Okay, in animal cells, vacuoles may contain water, they may contain food, cell secretions, or waste products. Okay, in plant cells, however, the vacuole contains cell sap, and cell sap is a solution containing sugars, mineral salts, okay, amino acids, and waste products from the cell's metabolism. Okay, the cell sap also supports the cell when it becomes turgid, or when it becomes firm, or when it swells. Okay, the cell sap would support the cell. Okay, now the structure and function of the chloroplast. Now the chloroplast are relatively large disc-shaped organelles. They are found in the green parts of the plants only, and each one is surrounded by a double membrane. So if you look here, you'll notice you have two membranes, one on the outside they call the outer membrane, and one on the inside they call the inner membrane. And between the two membranes you have the intermembrane space, or the intermembranal space. Okay, each also contains many internal membranes and the green pigment chlorophyll and photosynthetic enzymes. Okay, so within the membranes you have all those, and they are very important to ensure that photosynthesis takes place effectively. Okay, chloroplasts may also contain starch grains. Remember, starch grains are the form in which food is stored in plant cells. So after the food is made during photosynthesis, okay, after the glucose is made during photosynthesis, it polymerizes, or they combine with other glucose molecules inside the chloroplast most of the time to form starch grains. So that's why some chloroplasts have starch grains in them. Okay, so the chloroplast is actually where photosynthesis occurs. Okay, so remember, chloroplast, which contains chlorophyll, capture the energy of the sunlight, and it is used for the manufacture of carbohydrates in the form of sugars, and these sugars are passed into the cytoplasm where they are used to form other compounds, okay, such as starch for storage and cellulose for cell wall formation. Okay, on this slide I have some microscopic images of chloroplasts. So if you notice here, we have an electron micrograph of chloroplasts. This is another one, and here also we have a microscopic image of chloroplasts. And if you look carefully, you will notice the stacks of cells here. Okay, these are what you call the thylakoid membrane. Okay, this is one of the main characteristics we look for when we observing cells under a microscope, and it is one of the determining factors for chloroplasts. Okay, so it tells us that this is a chloroplast organelle. Okay, these stacks of cells there, okay, that showed up as very dark bands in the image. Okay, now the structure and function of the mitochondrion. So the singular is mitochondrion, plural is mitochondria. Okay, the mitochondrion is a rod-shaped organelle, and it has a smooth outer membrane. Right, there's a smooth outer membrane here, and it has an inner membrane. Just as the chloroplast, it has an inner membrane. The difference is that the chloroplast, the inner membrane is also smooth, but in the mitochondria, the inner membrane is folded to get these structures we call cristae, or these folds of cristae. Okay, now so you have this folded inner membrane, and inside these membranes you have this matrix that has respiratory enzymes. So that is where respiration will occur. Okay, so it's a site, the mitochondria is a site of cellular respiration. Okay, it is the powerhouse of the cell. That's where all the energy would be generated. Remember, the main purpose of respiration is to generate energy. Okay, so that's the role of the mitochondria. The mitochondria also has its own DNA. Okay, separate from the nuclear DNA or the DNA of the nucleus. The mitochondria has its own DNA, and this DNA in the mitochondria is called mtDNA or mitochondrial DNA. It is inherited through the maternal lineage of an individual, so it's only a female that can pass it on to her offspring. Okay, so the mitochondria are the sites of respiration during which food molecules are oxidized, okay, to release energy needed by the cell. The mitochondria are the most numerous cells of active tissues or organs, such as muscles. So in muscles, you'd have numerous mitochondria. The liver of animals have numerous mitochondria. The growing points of plants and germinating seeds, you have lots of mitochondria there. Okay, a single muscle cell, as a matter of fact, can have by the order of thousands of mitochondria for one muscle cell. Okay, so it's very numerous in active cells. So here are some images of the mitochondria. Notice it's rod shaped. Notice the folds in the microscopic images here. So that's one that would help you in identification of mitochondrial cells, right, from microscopic images. Now, microbe cells or microbial cells. When we talk about microbes, we are talking about microorganisms, and these microorganisms are extremely small organisms. Okay, they include all members of the prokaryote kingdom. Okay, example bacterium, and this is a bacteria here. This is a bacteria here. We'll go into the structure in a while. They also include many members of the Protoctista kingdom. Okay, example Amoeba. Okay, and some members of the fungi kingdom, example yeast. All these are microbes and microorganisms. Now, bacterial cells, they lack a true nucleus, okay, and other membrane-bound organelles. In other words, when we say they lack a true nucleus, we mean that they do not have a membrane around their nucleus, around their chromosomes. Okay, so they do not have a definite nucleus. The chromosomes are just scattered. Okay, the DNA is just scattered in the cytoplasm. Okay, so no true nucleus. Okay, the DNA exists in a region called the nucleoid. Okay, which lacks a nuclear membrane, no membrane around the DNA. And also in smaller regions, you have DNA in those smaller regions called plasmids, and these plasmids are basically circular DNA. So apart from the DNA, if you look at this image here, you will see this web of structure here. This is the scattered DNA. Okay, as a main DNA of the bacterial cell, but you have this circular DNA here, like this little circle here. These are plasmids. Okay, all right, or circular DNA. We have one here, also one here. Okay, so we have these plasmids, but not all bacterial cells have plasmids. Some have plasmids, some do not have plasmids. Okay, some bacteria also have a long whip-like extension of the structure called a flagellum. Okay, that is what you are seeing here. It looks like a tail. Okay, the flagellum. Okay, and this flagellum aids, it assists them in movement. Okay, and some bacteria may have more than one flagella. So singular is flagellum, plural is flagella. Okay, some of them may have multiple flagella. Okay, so the flagella assist them in movement. The cells of Protoctis and fungi all have true nuclei. Okay, so they have these membrane-bound organelles and true nuclei. So the DNA is surrounded by a nuclear membrane. and other membrane-bound organelles. Okay, so here we have another example of a bacterial cell. So this is the loose DNA here in the nucleoid, this region where the DNA is found. You also have you have the cytoplasmic membrane here. Okay, you have cell wall. Bacterial cells also have cell walls. Okay, and some of them have capsules around them that's made up of carbohydrates. Okay, here you have the flagella to help in motion. Okay, so the capsule is this shiny outer covering found in some bacteria, and it protects the cell from things like antibacterial, antibiotic, and so forth. Okay, you have a cell wall there, you have a cell membrane, you have the nucleoid, which is a single long, okay, called the loop of DNA, and it controls all cellular activities, as the nucleoid controls all cellular activities in the cell. Okay, continuing with microbe cells, we have the amoeba, cell, and that belongs to the kingdom Protoctista. Okay, the amoeba cell has what you call the pseudopods. Okay, this is a cell. You have the pseudopods, or pseudopodium. Pseudopodium or pseudopod is singular. Pseudopodia or pseudopods is plural. Okay, so the pseudopodium is an extension of the membrane and cytoplasm, and they are used to engulf or eat food, okay, by surrounding the food particle. And they're also used for movement. Okay, so as I said, the plural of pseudopodium is pseudopodia or pseudopods. Now, the amoeba also have these food vacuoles, okay, and they actually contain microscopic organisms that has been ingested by the amoeba. They are actually fragments of the membrane. So when the amoeba engulf its food, okay, part of the membrane would be pinched off and move inside of the cytoplasm. Okay, inside of the endoplasm, as it's called. Okay, so the food vacuole is the site of digestion. But apart from the food vacuole, you also have the contractile vacuoles, which contain water. Okay, and this water collects, and it also collects and removes excess water from the cytoplasm. Okay, so this is a contractile vacuole here. Okay, so it would take up water from the cytoplasm, okay, and it would also release water into the cytoplasm. Okay, so that's amoeba. Let's look at cell specialization in multicellular organisms. Now, the body of a unicellular organism consists of one unspecialized cell. Okay, so that one cell can perform all the essential life processes of the organism. Now, the body of multicellular organisms, however, consists of many cells, and to enable multicellular organisms to carry out all essential life processes efficiently, the many cells that they contain must be specialized, or they must be differentiated to carry out specific functions. Example, muscle cells in animals, they are specialized to contract in order to bring about movement. Mesophyll cells in leaves are specialized to carry out photosynthesis. Okay, so different cells are specialized to carry out different functions. Okay, now by becoming specialized, cells are better able to carry out their specific functions. Cells are specialized to carry out a particular function, then work in groups called tissues. Okay, so when you have a group of specialized cells come together, you form a tissue, and tissues may contain one, or in some cases more than one type of cell. Okay, let's look at some examples of plant tissues. So we have epidermal tissues, we have packing tissues, we have photosynthetic tissues, and we have vascular tissues in plants. These are the four broad types of tissues in plants. So in terms of epidermal tissues, they are composed of sheets or layers of flattened epidermal cells. Okay, they are found around the outside of leaves, young stems, and roots, and their function is to protect the surfaces of leaves, stems, and roots. Okay, in terms of packing tissue, they are round, or some of them are rectangular, and they have large vacuoles called parenchyma cells. Okay, they are found inside stems and roots. Okay, they fill the spaces in stem and roots. They support non-woody plants when they become turgid or firm, and they also store food. The photosynthetic tissue, they also are round or rectangular. They contain chloroplasts, and they are called mesophyll cells. Okay, they are found mainly in leaves, and they mix this type of tissue makes food by photosynthesis, okay, in the presence of sunlight. The vascular tissue, okay, consists of long tubes called xylem vessels and phloem sieve tubes, okay, with companion cells, and these vascular tissue are found in leaves, stems, and roots, and their functions are to transport water and mineral salts, that would be the xylem, provide support, that would be xylem also, and transport dissolved food substances, that would be the phloem and the companion cell. Okay, so these are some examples of plant tissues, what they are composed of, where they are found, and their functions. Okay, now we also have some examples of animal tissues. Okay, and we have nerve tissue, muscle tissue, epithelial tissue, connective tissue. Okay, the nerve tissue are composed of nerve cells or neurons. Okay, that's the name for nerve cells, neurons, and these neurons conduct nerve impulses. Okay, we also have muscle cells, okay, that form muscle tissue, and they bring about movement and contraction. Okay, so when the muscle cells contract, they cause a joint to move, or they bring about movement. Okay, the epithelial tissue consists of sheets of cells or layers of cells, and these epithelial tissues, they cover and often protect inner and outer surfaces of the body. Example, they line the blood vessels, they form the outer layers of the skin, and so forth. Okay, they line the digestive tract and all those things. Epithelial tissue then. So apart from nerve tissue, muscle tissue, and epithelial tissue, you also have connective tissue. Okay, connective tissue is basically a variety of cells that are surrounded by an extracellular material. Okay, examples are blood tissue, example red blood cells, white blood cells, platelets, and those connective tissues are surrounded by plasma. Okay, so the plasma would be the extracellular material. Then you have adipose or fat tissue, fat cells, okay, surrounded by extracellular material. The adipose tissue function in insulating the body or keeping the body warm. Okay, they also serve as a food store, and they protect the body by acting as padding or cushioning. Okay, blood tissue transports various substances around the body, example food and oxygen, and they also help fight disease. Okay, the red blood cells would transport food and oxygen around the body. The white blood cells would fight disease and infection. Okay, so different tissues are then grouped together to form specialized organs, okay, which may perform one or more functions. Example, the skin is composed of epithelial, connective, and nerve tissues. The leaves of plants are composed of epidermal, photosynthetic, and vascular tissues. Okay, now organs, these specialized organs then work together in organ systems or systems. Example, the digestive system, the nervous system, the blood vascular system or the circulatory system in animals, and the transpiration system and the translocation systems in plants. Okay, the systems then work together in an organized fashion to form a multicellular organism. So we have a group of cells coming together to form tissues. Okay, tissues come together to form organs. Organs come together to form organ systems. Organ systems come together to form the multicellular organism. Okay, and this is how cells, okay, work together in multicellular organism. Okay, So to summarize the lesson, both plants and animal cells have the same structures, except for the fact that only plant cells have cell walls that give them a rigid and a definite structure. Plant cells have larger vacuoles than that of animal cells. Okay, and animal cells are generally smaller than those of than plant cells. Okay, they are generally smaller than plant cells. Both plant and animal cells contain mitochondria. Okay, however, only plant cells contain chloroplasts, and they are also only found in the green parts of the plant. Mitochondria are needed for energy metabolism during respiration. Chloroplasts contain chlorophyll, which help trap sunlight for photosynthesis. Okay, mitochondria are present in almost every cell of the organism. Chloroplasts are only present in the green parts of the plant. Also, cell walls are freely permeable as opposed to cell membranes, which are differentially permeable. Okay, so cell walls allow everything to pass through. Cell membranes only allow certain things to pass through. Okay, so the cell membrane are better able to regulate the materials entering and leaving the cells. The nucleus is a control center of the cell in that it governs all cellular activities and functioning. The cytoplasm is mostly water, and it contains a lot of dissolved substances and interspersed organelles. So these organelles are distributed in the cytoplasm. Then we also talk about unicellular organisms and multicellular organisms. Unicellular organisms have one specialized cell. Multicellular organisms have various specialized cells to carry out different biochemical functions more efficiently. Okay, so unicellular organism, one cell that is unspecialized and it carries out all the essential functions of the organism. Multicellular organisms, you have more than one cells working together to carry out the living processes of the cell more efficiently. Okay, now without cell specialization, the activities of a multicellular organism would occur very slowly. Okay, so a group of cells is needed to ensure that the processes of the cells are effectively happening. A group of cells form tissues, which group to form organs, which group to form organ systems, and then which group to form an entire organism. Okay, so that's the summary of the lesson. Thank you very much for looking at these videos and paying attention. Please like, comment, and don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell icon to get more videos like this. Thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of your day.